Okay, Chapter 2, Stone Circle Academy. Monday. Alright, first day of school. I don't see them anywhere.
They were on the counter last night. Where are they?
How the heck should I know? You never let me drive, so I don't keep up with the car keys. You two are going to be late for your first day if you don't find them soon. Not my fault. Spencer was scouring the house looking for the car keys that he insisted he'd left on the counter. I was rinsing the breakfast dishes and Mom was supervising. Spencer let out an exasperated groan from near the door where he was hunting around for the keys.
Where's my other shoe?
Oh my god, I don't know! I don't keep up with your stuff! I finished the dishes and wiped my hands, grabbing my book bag as I headed to the front door to see if Spencer had left the keys there instead. If I'm late because of you...
We won't be late if you just help me find the keys!
I wouldn't have to help you find them if you just keep up with your stuff! I stalked to the front to check the little shelf by the cabinet there. No keys. I don't know why I opened the cabinet to check inside, but when I pulled the door open, I was confronted by Spencer's worn-out tennis shoe. I blinked at it in surprise. What the? I snatched it out of the cabinet and stalked back to the kitchen. I could only imagine that my sleep-deprived mom had put it in there while doing the last of the unpacking. I wondered if Spencer had checked the fridge for the keys yet. At this rate, it wouldn't surprise me if that's where they were. I found your stupid shoe. Spencer looked up from where he was rummaging through kitchen drawers for the keys. I tossed him the shoe, and as it somersaulted through the air to him, something flew out and hit the floor with a decidedly metallic sound. We both looked down in surprise. The car keys were sprawled carelessly on the kitchen floor. What were the keys doing in his shoe? Spencer immediately glared at me. Don't look at me. I didn't put them there.
Where did you find this?
In the cabinet by the front door. I could tell exactly what he was thinking, but I just shrugged. Sorry, it wasn't me. I don't know why your shoe was there, but I'm not in the mood to hear you blame me for it. He just scoffed as he set the shoe down and shoved his foot in it. He snatched the keys off the floor.
Yeah, right.
Mom hurried back into the kitchen. We found them. Someone put them in the front cabinet. I know. Don't ask me. Maybe Dad did it. Whatever. Someone probably just wasn't paying attention. Or we have an imp in the house. You two need to leave, now. You still have to stop and check in at the office before class. She practically shoved us both through the door. And thus came the quiet, uncomfortable drive to school. Yay. Spencer was driving our shared car, and I was sitting quietly in the passenger seat because fighting over who got to drive just wasn't worth it. I hated riding with him, though, but had no choice on that point. I was hoping after catching up with a couple of old friends, I might be able to start bumming a ride with one of them. In the meantime, though... So, looking forward to your first day? We might not get along, but I hated awkward silences almost as much as fighting. It should not have been this painful to ride in a car with my brother for 10 minutes. Ah yes, typical Spencer response. Curt, cryptic, utterly useless for conversation. I take that as a no.
Depends how many classes I have with you.
Ugh, really? Can we not start the day like this?
Then can you not talk to me?
I bit my lip and stared out the window. It would have been nice if we could have, I don't know, supported each other or something. Like actual siblings. Love me, brother. I know being back has probably brought up some bad memories. I know that you're still angry at me. He didn't say anything. But if we could just talk about it.
We can't talk about it.
I winced as he started yelling. This was a bad plan.
You try to act so innocent when Mom and Dad are around. You try to go on as if nothing happened because you've forgotten. Some of us can't just forget.
I never said I forgot. I said I can't remember. It might have been silly to make a distinction, but the way he used the word forgotten made it sound too deliberate somehow. I took a deep breath and leveled a serious look at him. If I recall, you told everyone you couldn't remember either. He didn't look at me. I was sitting on the side with his bad eye, so he didn't even bother.
What was I supposed to tell them? No one believed me when I told them the truth.
What truth? All I remember you telling people was... I stopped myself and looked out the window. The unfinished sentence hung on the air between us. I didn't have to finish it for us to both understand how strange it sounded. Of course no one had believed him. He told them I was some kind of monster. That I wasn't even his real sister. Mm-hmm. Who in their right mind would believe that anyway?
Don't try to act like you don't remember what really happened. I know better.
He said it so quietly I almost missed it. I just kept staring at the passing trees and didn't reply. I had no idea what I was supposed to remember. Turning into a monster? Somehow magically stealing his vision? It had been years since he'd last said something that out of touch with reality. Was I supposed to believe he actually still thought something like that was true? I mean, you guys are twins. If anyone's gonna notice something is not right with you, it's your twin brother. I believe him. If that was the case, I didn't even know how to respond. I chewed my lip anxiously, regretting talking to him. A few minutes later, we were pulling into the school parking lot. As soon as we found a space, Spencer jumped out and went straight inside. I grabbed my stuff and slammed the door, pausing to take a deep breath. I was not letting him ruin my day. Or I'd try not to, anyway. By the time I got inside, he was already walking out of the office with his schedule in hand. He didn't even look at me. I guess that was his way of letting me know I was on my own today. Not that I expected anything else. It didn't take long to get my own schedule printed. As I left the office still looking it over, I heard a long, familiar squeal heading my way. I couldn't keep the grin off my face when I saw Allie Fisher, the one person I'd kept in touch with the last 5 years, barreling toward me. Hey, girl. I can't remember if I said this when I first played, but you look the most like me in this game, so I have a connection to you. Oh. Except you have the coveted green eyes I've always wanted. Oh, so pretty.
Nora! I just saw Spencer! Dang! He's pretty. I didn't think he'd get so tall.
Ew! That's the first thing you're going to say to me when we finally see each other again? Also, that's not tall. You'd tower over him with a good set of heels.
Oh, come on. He's not my brother. I'm allowed to admire him.
She grinned and grabbed my arm, pulling me away from the office and down the hall. You're gross. And your crush on him is super weird.
Nope. Like I said, I'm allowed.
Allie, trust me when I say this. You can do better.
No, I don't think so. In fact, I'm thinking later today I need to catch up with Spencer a bit.
I say again, ew. She just laughed at my discomfort. I couldn't keep the smile off my face as we walked together. We'd kept in touch, but this was my first time actually seeing her in a long time.
So, how's the unpacking going? I was going to call this weekend, but I figured you'd be busy.
We're nearly done. Mom's been a total slave driver. It's kind of scary.
I remember how she is. I actually thought about coming over to help, but, well, then I remembered how she is.
You're the worst friend.
I'm a great friend. And I'm super glad you're back. This is going to be a great year.
I'm glad to be back too.
Though, before anything else, I do have to warn you about...
I heard you were back in town. That voice. I shot Allie a look and she gave me an apologetic smile in return. So this was what she was going to warn me about. Kara, my other friend from Pine Hollow. Hope you managed to stick around for the full year. Wouldn't want you to end up getting lost again as soon as you get back in town. Well, there goes the idea that people have forgotten about that. I don't intend to get lost anywhere. Oh, I don't intend to get lost anywhere. If you want to, though, I can definitely give you directions. From beside me, Allie snickered quietly, but said nothing. Thanks for the support, girl. I really couldn't believe Kara was still bitter over that incident. I got that my last disappearance had disrupted her little concert, and that she and her mother had always had big aspirations regarding her musical career. But it's not like I'd ruined things on purpose, and I hadn't exactly asked everyone to ditch the concert and join the manhunt for me. I knew it had to have sucked, but I had apologized, and I was getting tired of apologizing for something I couldn't even fully remember. Anyway, they're pretty strict on attendance these days. The teachers aren't too keen on people who just take off for attention whenever they want, so you might want to be careful. No one is going to believe convenient amnesia either. Not this time. She walked past with a glare aimed my way. I let out a long sigh. Well then. What a thing to come back to. My family had moved away before we'd had the chance to work things out, but maybe I should have tried to mend fences with her before we got back. To be fair, I hadn't expected her to still be mad. As it was, that was just another thing to feel guilty for. At the very least, I was sorry that her relationship with Allie soured because of me as well. They clearly weren't exactly buddies anymore either.
Sorry about that. I was just getting around to warning you about her. She's been cranky ever since she heard you were moving back.
Allie pulled me down the hall in the opposite direction of Kara. Don't apologize.
I can't believe she's mad. Normal people don't get mad about things like that.
Well, you know she thinks I was trying to mess things up for her intentionally because I was jealous. Or whatever.
That's ridiculous.
Maybe, but she wasn't the only one. Half the town thought it was just some cry for attention, remember?
Oh, whatever. Anyone who knew you at the time should have known better. That includes Kara.
That's when Spencer started hating me too. So maybe they know something I don't. I gave her a tired smile.
Come on, perk up. You can't look all grumpy on your first day.
I know.
So, what's your first class?
Literature, Mrs. Roberts.
Same!
I was relieved. Being around someone who actually wanted me there might make my morning suck a little less.
You'll love her. Come on!
She dragged me the rest of the way to class. I immediately scanned for certain unfriendly faces, but was relieved that neither Spencer nor Kara was anywhere to be seen. I did see some other familiar faces, though. Oh, it's Danny and Elliot! They were sitting at the far side of the room, surrounded by a group of friends who seemed to be taking great pleasure in prodding Elliot awake every time he nodded off. He is definitely not a morning person. Elliot's purple hair and black clothes stuck out like a sore thumb among Danny and the rest of the clean-cut, sporty guys. Let's see, life is all about making mistakes and learning from them. Why are there so many different... Am I crazy, or is that like several different fonts going on in that poster? It's driving me crazy. Can I read the classroom rules? No... something. No... hitting your something, use of something, stay out of the something, please do not something. Glamour is not... glamour? No PDAs. No electronics. Magic? Am I going crazy? Man, my eyesight is garbage. I can't read most of that, but I could swear there was magic in there. Also, no smooching in this class. Gotcha. I got the feeling Danny was the main reason he was in that group. Unlike Elliot, who looked out of place, Danny fit in perfectly. I couldn't help but wonder how those two had become friends. They were so different. Okay, well, we're not talking to either of those because they're not our object of affection. They're not the right guy for us this time around, so let's go talk to the teacher. I made a mental note to catch up with them both later. Before I could get much further into the class, Allie grabbed my arm and started dragging me toward where the teacher was waiting at the front of the room.
Come on! I'll introduce you before class starts.
I'm coming! Please don't rip my arm off. Allie introduced me to Mrs. Roberts, who gave me a quick rundown of what the class was studying at the moment. A Midsummer Night's Dream. I'd read it last year, actually, so catching up wouldn't be that difficult.
We have an empty seat at the front of the class and several at the back. You may take your pick.
She shot me a friendly smile that made me feel quite at ease. I suspected that I'd like her.
And welcome back to Stone Circle, Miss Lewis.
Thanks. I'm really glad to be back. Unfortunately, none of the seating options were near people I knew, which was a little disappointing. It looks like she has everyone paired up for group work. The seat up at the front was next to a sort of grumpy-looking, well-dressed blonde. He didn't look extremely friendly. There were also 2 empty sets of paired desks at the back, and one open seat next to a gloomy boy with messy brown hair. He didn't even look up as Mrs. Roberts explained my choices. The only other seat was on the second to last row by the window. It was tempting, to be honest, but I should probably take a seat that at least gives me a reading partner. But both options just looked like so much fun. I wasn't paying attention. I think Blondie's sitting at the front, and I think that's who I sat with the first time. Do I want to mix things up? Talk to the sweet boy? Yeah, you know what? Let's mix things up. I felt uncomfortable at the idea of sitting next to the blonde. He didn't look especially friendly and was kind of radiating vibes that screamed, "Don't sit here." Kind of Edward Cullen-y, you know? I decided to follow my intuition on that one. Instead, I shuffled past him and headed to the back. Literature was my favorite subject, so it shouldn't matter if I sat in the front or not anyway. I slid into the desk next to the brown-haired boy, wondering why every desk around him was empty. He looked up with surprise when I sat down. "Were you the one that I thought might be a ghost?" Possibly. I can't remember for sure. I shivered slightly as I set my backpack on the floor. Ghost theory's looking pretty solid right now. That's weird. Is there a draft back here? I glanced up at the ceiling, but there was no vent overhead. It was definitely really cold, though. It wasn't just my imagination, because the brown-haired boy was still wearing a jacket and scarf. I'd probably have to remember to bring an extra layer tomorrow, too. Just my luck. I caught the boy's eye and shot him a smile. "It's kinda cold back here, huh?" Gentle brown eyes gazed at me from under his long fringe. He looked away quickly, chewing his lower lip. "You shouldn't have chosen that seat." He mumbled something, but it was too quiet for me to hear. I didn't get a chance to ask him to repeat it before the teacher started talking again.
Today, we'll be continuing our reading of A Midsummer Night's Dream with our partners. William, if you would be so good as to share your book with Nora for today.
His head shot up and he stared at me with an expression that looked vaguely like horror. I smiled awkwardly. "Shy. I hope? Sorry to be a bother. He looked away quickly, but it was hard not to notice how his ears went red. Definitely shy. That was a relief. Shyness, I could handle. I studied this play last year, so I'm already familiar with it.
I've also read it before.
Oh, good. So this should be pretty easy. He chewed his lip before looking up at me seriously.
You should ask if you can move up front tomorrow. Most people don't like sitting by me.
Wait, is he mad I sat here? No. I didn't think that was it. He didn't look angry, just sort of miserable. He definitely struck me as the awkward sort, but that didn't explain the other empty chairs around him. Surely people wouldn't refuse to sit by him just because he was a little shy, right? I don't think I'll mind sitting here. I lowered my voice to a whisper. The guy up front looks sort of cranky. William's lips twitched slightly, but he didn't quite smile.
I don't mind if you stay, but if you ever want to move, I'll understand.
It's fine, really. Don't worry about that. Anyway, where did you leave off reading? Why is he so convinced I'll want to move? Is he being bullied? That didn't seem right either. Not with Danny and Elliot and Allie in class with him. Danny and Elliot didn't seem the types to bully someone or put up with others doing it, and I knew Allie wasn't. Weird.
I was nearly to the start of Act 4.
Okay, great. We'll just start there then.
Alright.
We spent the next 45 minutes taking turns reading. I was really surprised at how confident he was once we got to work. His voice was so quiet that at times I had to lean closer just to hear him, but he read without stumbling over the sometimes complex dialogue. I expected him to be more hesitant, but it seemed like it was just conversation he wasn't great at. Anyway, it was nice to have a decent reading partner, considering how a lot of people made a big fuss about hating Shakespeare. I quickly found myself feeling quite pleased with my seating choice. He seemed to relax as time passed as well. Hooray! Even if it was a bit cold. When class was nearing its end, I looked up at the clock and stretched. We made a lot of progress today. A soft thud next to my seat caught my attention. I glanced down at the floor and saw that my pencil case, where I kept my drawing pencils, had somehow fallen out of my book bag. Did anybody actually have pencil cases? I never used mine for pencils. I had a couple, I never actually used them for pencils. I can't remember what I had in them, though. Sorry, random segue, but I'm just like, pencil cases with pencils in them? What is this? Goodness gracious. Huh, I thought I closed that. I leaned down to pick it up and put it back in, and then he was gone. Oh no, he's still here, okay.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, just noticed something fell out of my bag. Moments later, the bell rang, and the rest of class immediately packed up and vacated. I'm telling you, we got an imp or a leprechaun or some kind of something. That's messing with me. William and I were both slower to gather our things. Anyway, I was trying to say that you're good at this.
Thank you.
I actually have a big soft spot for Shakespeare. Pretty much everyone I know thinks it's weird.
It's not weird. I mean, I don't think it's weird anyway. I also like Shakespeare.
I'm glad. It's more fun to sit by someone who also likes it.
I'll see you later.
Sure. See you. Our eyes met again and he gave me the sweetest smile before heading out the door. Aw, what a cutie. No matter what he said, I didn't think I would regret sitting by him at all. Anyone who liked Shakespeare couldn't be that bad at the very least. I leaned to pick up my book bag and... my pencil case was laying on the floor next to it. I just picked this up. Maybe I didn't put it in all the way. Frowning slightly, I picked it up and put it securely in my book bag. Allie was over in one corner, surrounded by people I didn't know, so I decided to just head to my next class and catch her later. I was pretty sure trigonometry was on the same floor as literature, but it had been several years since I was last here, and I'd never actually come to the high school wing. I wasn't entirely sure where I was going.
Why is it so crowded?
I was jostled across the hall by the crowd, trying to aim for a nearly empty spot by an open door. I reached it at the same time as a pale-haired girl in a blue coat. Ah, I remember this. We nearly ran into each other, but she caught me by the shoulders, preventing an embarrassing collision. There's the object of our affections! The lovely sir! With the awesome scarf.
Careful.
Wait. That voice. That's a guy? I stared up at him, somewhat in awe. He was so pretty. How could a guy be that pretty? He smiled down at me.
Are you okay? Didn't mean to nearly crash into you.
Oh, yes, sorry. I'm okay. I quickly straightened and tried to get my bearings. I don't remember it being this. Watch it! Someone very nearly sheared my nose off with his backpack. I don't think they even heard me shout. Is it always this crowded between classes? Jeez. Ugh. Hey, can I ask you where...
Wish me luck.
Before I could finish, the boy bounded away from the wall and... Oh no! I squeezed my eyes shut as he nearly bowled over two brunettes twice his size. I expected him to bounce off and go sprawling, but he somehow managed to dodge. And bowl over someone smaller than him instead.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you okay?
I watched him fuss over the girl for a few seconds before hurrying off down the hall, squeezing his way through the crowd. He seemed pretty popular. Everyone waved and called to him as he bounced through. It didn't take long to learn that his name was Corvin, if only because people kept shouting it as they said hello. That's an unusual name. As I got ready to brave the tide of students myself, I noticed a book had fallen in the middle of the hallway, right where Corvin had run into that girl. Oh shoot! Did he drop that? No one else appeared to have noticed it there. I hesitated for a moment. I didn't want to just leave it, but I was really doubtful of my ability to get across the hall and pick something up off the floor without getting steamrolled by the crowd. And I was going to be late if I waited until the hall cleared to get it. Still, it was going to get damaged if I just left it in the middle of the floor. I should probably either return it to Corvin or get it to the office. What would Corvin do? Dive in! Someone clipped the edge of the book with their foot as they walked past, sending it sliding across the tile toward the end of the lockers. I couldn't watch anymore. At this rate, it would be ruined. I shifted my backpack slightly and practically threw myself into the crowd. If Pretty Boy could do it, so could I. Probably. It wasn't quite as easy as he made it seem. Probably because he was at least 6 inches taller than me. Not that I was short or anything, it was just really crowded. I jostled my way through the hurried students, nearly losing an eye to a wayward backpack at least once. When I was finally near the other side of the hall, I made a sort of dive around the corner for the book. A head of white blonde hair came into my field of view a few seconds too late. I wasn't able to halt my momentum before our skulls cracked against each other. Band-aid! How did I get there so fast?
Oof.
Ah! I crouched on the floor, seeing stars as I clutched my head. My poor head. Pretty Boy was back, and his head must have been made of titanium. Jeez. Maybe I need to start wearing a helmet. Ow.
Oh my god, are you okay? Are you okay? I didn't see you.
Wow, he was 2 for 2 when it came to running into me at this point. Or were we 2 for 2 for running into him? Also, did Did he lose his glasses? I'm not crazy. He did have glasses at one point, right? If he kept this up, I was going to have to start considering the possibility that either he and I were soulmates, or I'd somehow become magnetized in the last 10 minutes. I blinked rapidly, waiting for my vision to come back fully before I answered. A pair of large hands closed on my shoulders and started shaking me.
Are you alright? Can you see me? Do I need to get you to the office?
Please stop shaking me.
Sorry. You just weren't answering, so I was worried.
I rubbed my forehead and peered at the blonde boy with one eye. We stared at each other for a long time. He really had the most amazing green eyes.
Shoot! I dropped my glasses!
He suddenly started looking around wildly for the glasses that were right by his knee. I picked them up and handed them over. Ah, much better. He shoved them onto his face and looked at me again, smiling this time. I think you dropped a book earlier. I was trying to get it so I could return it to you.
Oh yeah, I just came back for it, and...
He blinked suddenly, giving me another long look.
When did you see me drop it?
Earlier, when you ran into that girl.
Right. It was kind of crowded, though. You must have a good eye.
Well, I was watching, since we nearly run into each other and you sort of Geronimo'd out into the crowd right after.
Oh yeah, we nearly ran into each other over there, too. I guess our meeting was meant to be. Thanks for trying to save my book. That was sweet.
He shoved it into his backpack before standing and offering me his hand. I took it and pulled myself to my feet, if only because I was still a bit dizzy from that epic headbutt. Thanks. He didn't immediately let go of my hand, but instead pulled me slightly closer, peering very seriously into my eyes. Whoa. I felt my face heating up again under his scrutiny.
What's your name?
I'm Nora. I tried to pull my hand away, and he instantly released it, smiling slightly. He reached up and gently brushed my hair away from my cheek. He chuckled softly.
Well, I'm glad to have met you, Nora.
Before he could say much else, he was called away by another boy and darted off, leaving me staring after him. Whoa. What was that? We met our soulmate, girl.
Holding hands with someone on the first day? I'm impressed.
I shook myself out of that daze and glared at Allie. We weren't holding hands. He was helping me stand.
Right. Whoa! What happened to your head?
Oh, that guy. I think his name's Corvin. He and I sort of ran into each other.
Nice. Yeah, if you're going to find a crazy way to introduce yourself to a guy, going with something classic works.
Yeah, I did not bash my head into his just to meet him.
Right. But he's pretty cute, yeah?
I rolled my eyes. Whatever. Can you show me where Trig is before we're both late?
You still suck with directions. Come on!
My next two classes were fairly boring. At least when it came to academic content. When it came to social interaction, though, it was definitely a different story. First of all, Corvin was in trigonometry. He didn't seem to notice me at all, though. Not that I was surprised. I had definitely been right about him being popular. He was surrounded by others before class started. The crowd around Danny and literature was nothing compared to the amount of people vying for Corvin's attention. It was a little weird, actually. On top of that, he was a complete and total klutz. Oh no, we found our Lupin. He dropped his pencil a dozen times, tripped over his own feet, and at one point somehow landed on another student's desk face first. At most schools he probably would have been a laughingstock, but not so much here. In fact, the other students sort of fawned over him every time he hurt himself. 3 different people offered to escort him to the nurse for an ice pack after he fell. He was kind of an airhead, but I guess he must have been really, really nice to have that many friends and admirers. It was probably cynical to think it might just be the way he hemorrhaged compliments. Corvin's antics aside, Spencer was in both trig and chemistry. I couldn't help but wonder how having 2 classes with me must have impacted how good a day he was having. And if watching him alternate between glaring and pretending I didn't exist wasn't bad enough. Kara was also in chemistry with us. The moment she saw me and gave me a smug little grin, I knew something was up, so I was a little apprehensive going into class. It was sad we hadn't managed to patch things up, but I was ultimately okay with her not liking me. I wasn't okay with her trying to pick fights and cause problems just for the sake of doing it, though. And it didn't take long to work out what she was up to. I hadn't even gotten to my desk when 2 people who introduced themselves as Luke and Emery practically set up camp nearby to pepper me with questions about the whole childhood disappearing act. I didn't remember either of them, so I didn't think they were students who were at the school when it happened. And yet, they'd definitely gotten a pretty detailed version of what had happened from somewhere. Damn it, Kara. I don't know which one of you's which, but I guess we'll just go with it.
So, do you really not remember what happened to you while you were missing? I heard you were attacked by a bear or something. Someone said you were the only witness to a murder out there, but none of the other victims were ever found. Do you think you blocked it all out because of the trauma? Is it true the police questioned you guys because they thought you tried to kill each other?
I shot Spencer a quick look at that one.
Is that how you got injured or whatever?
Spencer was gritting his teeth, glaring at me. Not good. I could practically see the red flashing light above his head declaring a level 7 nuclear event was imminent. Is there any way we can just not talk about this?
Come on, we're just curious.
I sighed, trying to figure out a diplomatic way to tell them to shut the heck up before my brother had a meltdown. It was a really long time ago. We just got back into town and are trying to settle in. There isn't much to tell anyway, but I think we'd rather not talk about it all the same.
Everyone, please take your seats.
At the teacher's words, everyone reluctantly retreated, leaving Spencer and me alone. I was trying to look anywhere but at him. I honestly hadn't expected anyone to bring this stuff up again. My gaze fell on Kara, who was still giving me that same smile. Of course, if someone was intentionally trying to bring it all up again, then it was no wonder people were interested. Trying to stir rumors up using that of all things was literally the most pointless endeavor. Fortunately, by the time class released, everyone seemed more interested in getting to the cafeteria before the lines got too long. Or maybe the average student's attention span wasn't long enough to remember that Spencer and I had an interesting backstory. Regardless, the class emptied quickly, which left me to find my way to the cafeteria alone. It didn't take me too long. The students crowding into the door were a dead giveaway. Allie was nowhere in sight, unfortunately, so I just grabbed a more or less decent-looking sandwich and found an empty spot to eat alone. I was so thrilled to be doing that on my first day. I had barely touched my lunch when someone dropped a leather satchel on the table in front of me. Oh, it's Vampire Boy. Hi. I looked up and right into the blue eyes of the blonde guy from literature, the cranky one from the front of the class. How interesting, because last time I sat with him, when I did my gander, I sat with him, and Ghost Boy sat with me at lunch instead. How very interesting. The look on his face was not encouraging. It was sort of that look a person gets when they step on something really gross, like chewing gum. And of course, it was directed at me. Already glad I'm not sitting by him in class.
This is where I sit. For lunch. This is where I sit for lunch, so you can go elsewhere.
Ah. Nope. I was definitely not going to let him talk to me like that. What a charmer. How about no? I was here first. He leaned down and placed both hands on the table, glaring at me. I swallowed nervously, my bravado evaporating instantly. Okay. Scary. I don't care. I said you can leave.
Hey, Mark! Hey, Nora!
Thanks, Danny. I was relieved when a familiar face showed up, slinging an arm across the blonde's shoulders as he grinned down at me. Hey, Danny.
I didn't get a chance to say hi in literature.
It's okay. You were surrounded, and Allie was either going to introduce me to the teacher or pull my arm out of its socket if I didn't comply.
Glad you chose to comply, then.
Yeah, autonomy wasn't quite worth losing an arm. Mark shrugged away from Danny's arm and brushed off his sleeve, glaring at us both in turn.
So you two know each other. Do you think you can kindly ask her to leave my table?
Danny gave Mark a pained look, but the blonde boy didn't budge.
Come on, Mark. She's new. You could at least give it a week before you start drawing lines everywhere and declaring where your territory is.
I prefer eating alone. You know that.
Right. Yes. I do remember that.
He gave me an apologetic smile. I was getting used to seeing that sort of smile from him. At least this time didn't involve me getting hit in the head.
In any case, I was going to see if you wanted to come eat with me and Elliot and everyone else. Mark can be sort of antisocial, but he's not a bad guy. He doesn't mean any harm.
Of course he didn't. He was just rudely kicking me out of his spot and trying to intimidate me. I stood. I didn't really get why I should have to put up with people being rude to me for no reason. And I wasn't really up for a pity invite to the popular table. Thanks anyway. I think I lost my appetite. Fortunately, I hadn't unloaded anything from my backpack, so I just snatched it up and started away from the table. I wanted to ignore Danny's frown, but there was something inherently puppy dog about it that warranted some kind of response.
He might be a werewolf. Possibly.
Thanks for the offer. Really. I'm just not up for it right now. I left the cafeteria without another word and no one came after me. Not that I really expected otherwise. I decided I'd just go somewhere quiet and read for the rest of lunch. And by read, I meant sulk. The day was definitely not going how I had planned.